Good morning. Welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Deuteronomy chapter 19. For this upload, we will be reading Deuteronomy chapter 29. These are the words of the covenant that the Lord commanded Moses to make with the people of Israel in the land of Moab, besides the covenant that he had made with them at Horeb. And Moses summoned all Israel and said to them, You have seen all that the Lord did before your eyes in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land, the great trials that your eyes saw, the signs and those great wonders. But to this day the Lord has not given you a heart to understand, or eyes to see, or ears to hear. I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes have not worn out on you, and your sandals have not worn off your feet. You have not eaten bread, and you have not drunk wine or strong drink, that you may know that I am the Lord your God. And when you came to this place, Sihon, the king of Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us to battle, but we defeated them. We took their land and gave it for an inheritance to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of the Manassesites. Therefore, keep the words of this covenant and do them, that you may prosper in all that you do. You are standing today, all of you, before the Lord your God, the heads of your tribes, your elders and your officers, all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and the sojourner who is in your camp, from the one who chops your wood to the one who draws your water, so that you may enter into the sworn covenant of the Lord your God, which the Lord your God is making with you today, that he may establish you today as his people, and that he may be your God as he promised you, and as he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. It is not with you alone that I am making this sworn covenant, but with whoever is standing here with us today before the Lord our God, and with whoever is not here with us today. You know how we lived in the land of Egypt, and how we came through the midst of the nations through which you passed. And you have seen their detestable things, their idols of wood and stone, of silver and gold, which were among them. Beware, lest there be among you a man or woman or clan or tribe whose heart is turning away today from the Lord our God to go and serve the gods of those nations. Beware, lest there be among you a root bearing poisonous and bitter fruit, one who, when he hears the words of this sworn covenant, blesses himself in his heart, saying, I shall be safe, though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart. This will lead to the sweeping away of moist and dry alike. The Lord will not be willing to forgive him, but rather the anger of the Lord and his jealousy will smoke against that man, and the curses written in this book will settle upon him. And the Lord will blot out his name from under heaven, and the Lord will single him out from all the tribes of Israel for calamity, in accordance with all the curses of the covenant written in this book of law. And the next generation, your children who rise up after you, and the foreigner who comes from a far land will say, when they see the afflictions of that land and the sickness with which the Lord has made it sick, the whole land burned out with brimstone and salt, nothing sown and nothing growing, where no plant can sprout, an overthrow like that of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboam, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and wrath. All of the nations will say, Why has the Lord done thus to this land? What caused the heat of this great anger? Then people will say, It is because they abandoned the covenant of the Lord, the God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt, and went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods whom they had not known and whom he had not allotted to them. Therefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against this land, bringing upon it all the curses written in this book, and the Lord uprooted them from their land in anger, in fury, and great wrath, and cast them into another land, as they are this day. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things that are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. So I am reading from the English Standard Version. I read from the English Standard Version this time. We are in Bible Ref, so you can. This is the English Standard, New International Version. These are all 7 different versions, so you can. I still have the King James. But to summarize Deuteronomy chapter 29, so Moses is continuing his extended farewell to the second generation of Israel out of Egypt. First, we have this preface, almost like denoting a special occurrence. When we look at previous chapters, you see how if you faithfully, it continues with Moses talking. And then when you go to 30, 31, it's it doesn't start like this. So that's another slight thing that adds to my theory of why Moses didn't enter into the land of Canaan. So this is the covenant God commanded Moses with Israel and Moab. This is verse 1. Verse 2, you have witnessed God's actions in Egypt to Pharaoh, his servants, and his land. Today, God has not given you an understanding heart or ears to hear. I led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes and sandals survived. You have not eaten bread or drank strong drink, so you can know that I'm God. And then he details in verses 7 through 9. This is a reference to Numbers chapter 32 with the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the Manassites. In Numbers chapter 32, Moses was dividing land, and he was, or giving like the blueprint of how land in Canaan would be divided amongst the families. And Reuben and Gad didn't want to live amongst the Israelites. So they had a lot of cattle. They wanted to settle outside of a different part. So this conquered land in Numbers chapter 21 from King Sihon, that was verses 23 through 27. Then you have Numbers chapter 21, verse 33 through 35 with King Og. In Numbers chapter 21, there were two battles with Israel, and Israel won both battles. And so in Numbers 32, the land from those wins in Numbers 21 was given to Reuben and Gad when Moses was dividing that land. So that's what he's referring to here in verses 7 through 9. Then we get to verse 10. Since God gave these lands to the Reubenites and the Gadites, keep God's covenant and obey. Verse 10 through verse 15. Okay, so I'm sorry. That was verse 9. Since God gave these lands to the Reubenites and the Gadites, then keep God's covenant. Therefore is sort of like since. Because of what God did by giving the lands to the Reubenites and the Gadites, keep his word. Then verse 10 through 15, you are here before God, and then he lists the attendants, leaders, elders, officers, Israelite men, little ones, so that you can enter the covenant of God, which he's making with you today, and the covenant that he swore to your ancestors. I'm making this sworn covenant with you in front of God and in front of those who are not here with us today. Verse 16. Verse 16 through 20. You know how we lived in Egypt, the detestable things we saw and their idols. Remember or be cautious that there are not Israelites who want to worship other gods. Be careful that there are none among you that hear this covenant. And Moses compares hearing this covenant and wanting to behave with a stubbornness of heart. He compares it to a root bearing poisonous food. And he says that any person who thinks like this, who hears this covenant but wants to operate with a stubborn heart, this will lead to destruction of the land. The Lord will not forgive him, but curse him with the curses written in this book. And the last chapter, Deuteronomy chapter 28, that detailed extensively the curses that will happen if Israel decides to worship other gods once they enter into this new land. God will blot out this man's name from under heaven. Verse 21. This man will be singled out to be the target of calamity in accordance with all the curses in this book of law or book of instruction. So I think this is referring to the Bible that we're reading now. So the next generation will come of age after the faraway nation completes the deeds that were listed in Deuteronomy 28. Part of one of the uh, punishments that Israel will endure if they don't follow God's command is that a faraway nation that is fierce, who doesn't show mercy to the young or to the old, they will come in. They will eat all of their crops and consume everything that the Israelites have bought or bought with them or grew. They will desolate the land completely. And so once this happens, when the next generation comes of age, they will see what happened, that the things that were prophesied in Deuteronomy 28 comes to pass, that God made the land sick, damaged, and infertile, and compared what would happen to Sodom and Gomorrah, to the land of Admah and Zeboim. Admah and Zeboim, I was not able to find that, or I did not look it up. I'll just be honest, I didn't look it up. But these are places that God unleashed his wrath. Then 24. All nations will question this occurrence, and the reason will be known that specifically you, Israel, worshipped other gods and disobeyed your God. Verse 29. The secret things of God remain secret, but what he says to us and lets us know, we must obey. So that is all I have for Deuteronomy chapter 29. I'm glad this was a quick video. Thank you for clicking on this. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I love you. Have a wonderful day.